Hey guys, Professor O'Kane here, and today we're going to cover three of the most important things you need to know as a beginning guitar. When you're a beginner, the first thing that happens is you either learn notes or learn chords, but we're going to use chords in this example. So you learn chords and you get one chord down, and then you struggle to get the next chord down, and it kind of goes like that in the beginning. We all go through it. So if you're feeling frustrated, don't worry, because we've all been there, and actually we're probably all still there to some degree or another. The great thing about guitar, it's been figured out. So it might feel impossible in the beginning, but you're going to get past it. Trust me. That's one thing I can say. I guarantee if you stick with it, you will get past this stage. But now here is something that you really need to take into consideration. If you're learning something like a simple chord progression, like G, this folk G, I like to call this one the folk G with just one finger here on the E string. So we'll just, if you're going from G to C to D, let's say your teacher has written those chords out for you, a lot of times what happens is this. You're going along great, and then hang on a second. You got the G really well, and then C. Maybe you have the D really well, and it kind of goes like that. I understand the struggle. I understand the struggle. There's an overarching rule that you need to respect. And you should always be asking yourself this question that the rule begets. And that is, am I playing in time? That is the most important question you need to ask yourself. Am I playing in time? Now, you might say, well, Professor O'Kane, how am I supposed to play in time if I'm struggling to get the C? We'll address that in just a second. You need to respond to that huge rule that should be like, when you look up, it should have a big question mark at the end of it. And the question mark needs to be pointing right at you. Are you playing in time? If you're not playing in time, you have to ask yourself, what can I do to start playing in time? Now, if you don't know what playing in time is, or playing with good rhythm, it means being able to keep the beat. And it's something as simple as this. If you just listen to this, 1, 2, 3, 4. So far I'm playing in time. It's just a steady beat that keeps going. Okay, so then you might say, well, Professor O'Kane, yeah, that makes sense, but I can't even get to the C chord that quickly. Well, then you need to practice just going from G to C and not even putting yourself under the pressure of playing. Finger the G chord and then switch to the C chord. Now, what I always think is that when I play the C, I need to extend my third finger out and pull my first finger back. So it's like this kind of motion happens. Not crazy, but just from G, extend, and now I can get my C chord. What happens a lot is this thing. So you're kind of going from high to low. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if you're doing the 1, 2, 3 situation, what I want you to do is I want you to just go from this G shape and practice putting your third finger right here, right on this note happens to be C. So you're going to go from G just to here, G to here. And you're going to do this in reps, okay? So If you do it 20 times, you're fine, okay? You're all right. Do it 20 times and then start adding the second finger to it. And it could be really slow, like this slow. G, now I'm in the air, and I'm going to the C chord. So eventually it's going to train your fingers to get in this shape. So you just push them down, and there you have your C chord. So if you can't get to the C chord in time, then you're always going to be out of time. So after you've psyched out where the C is and where the D is, and you can actually land on the chords each time, you're probably ready to start playing in time. One way you can play in time is to have a metronome, or simply, if you don't even have access or the inclination to use a metronome, at least count out loud 1, 2, 3, 4, and tap your foot along with it. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, this all sounds totally normal. Of course I know to play in time. Here's something that you might not have considered. Your hardest change, your hardest chord change, well, so in this instance, it might be from G to C, dictates your fastest tempo. Okay, so you might be just a wizard going from C to D, or from D to G. But going from G to C, you might be, that might be a real struggle. So if it takes me this long, I'll just give 2 beats and then I just can switch. Let's say I just barely get it. That's as fast as my total tempo is gonna be. Okay? So it might seem a little bit boring, but the idea is for you to always play in time. In other words, so that is your burned in inclination, is that you need to play in time. Playing in time is beautiful. And it actually is. It's really what people can respond to, even if they don't know that they're responding to it. If your time is fluctuating, especially dragging, but speeding up and dragging, all that kind of stuff, it just gives the untrained listener a feeling like, this is pretty lame. And we want to steer away from lameness and towards greatness. So playing in time, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now watch, I'm going to mess up the D chord entirely. You forgot it. You forgot that I messed up the D chord. So I didn't hypnotize you, but I kind of did. By playing in time, it almost doesn't matter if I mess up, because I'm following it up with something that sounds right. Even if you had to write a report, a citation, okay, messed up on that D chord, but the rest was pretty good. As opposed to stopping and going like this. Let's say I was on the C. Nobody wants to hear you go backwards. You can't go back in time. Like, you're essentially like, let me do a do-over. Well, if you have figured out how to go back in time, call me. There's a lot of things in my past I need to redo. Okay, so how does this playing in time thing manifest itself after you have spent quite a long time, slogging it out, and now you want to try and put things together? Well, let's say this is you 2 years from now and you mess up the C chord. Let me count it off. 2, 3, 4. So, yeah, I played wrong chords, but I did not lose the time. If I was playing with a band, they might give me a look, but they might laugh. but they're not going to give me a look and then want to, you know, throw a cymbal at me if I just go. And I go back and the bass player and everybody else is, you get the idea. So if you can just be kind to yourself, take the tempo and bring it way, 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 way down. If you don't know how to do it, ask your teacher. Ask your teacher. They'll help you. Tell them that you want to play ultra slow and ultra in time. Okay? If you do that, I guarantee you that pretty much everything you play is going to be so convincing that anybody listening to it is going to really like your playing. I just got a great idea. When something is hanging you up, like getting to a chord, that is your alarm saying, hey, you're going too fast. You need to sort this out and make this as easy as your easiest change. So you have two rules now. The slowest change dictates your fastest tempo, and your easiest change is how this change should feel, the hardest one. So you might be saying, Professor O'Kane, how do I make that happen? Slowly. It might mean with no tempo at first, and then doing that same kind of airborne trick where you're getting your fingers in that shape. So I'm in the G shape right here, and then I get airborne, thank you, right brothers, and then I press, and that's it. And I work that, I work it rep wise. If you don't like sitting and you need some kind of distraction, put on your favorite YouTube video, you know, subscribe to my channel, watch one of them, and practice switching back and forth super slowly until it feels natural. The C chord, the F bar chord, the B flat bar chord, those chords require many, many repetitions. But stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to teach you how to attack these bar chords like nobody else has. So when you put your finger down and you press, and then you put your other finger down and you press, you put your other finger down and you press, you get it in your mind that all this thing is pressing down. Okay, so I go to this chord and I press down. I go to this chord and I press down. But there's something really big happening here, and I've never heard it discussed. I've never heard anybody give it this obvious name, because I've heard a lot of people struggle, and I've had to help people of all shapes and sizes try and figure out how to do this B flat bar chord, or how to make this F bar chord sound right. The one word that encapsulates all of it is leverage. So you might be wondering why leverage is important, and it has a lot to do with the ease of playing the guitar, especially when you're first learning. So I wanted you to see where my hand is in the back of the guitar. Now, there is a time when you do put your thumb over, but just for a C chord, where I have my thumb is right about this point of the neck. Now, if you notice that I have pretty much a straight line going on with my forearm. I'm not like this, and I'm not like this. So I'm not like palming the neck, and I'm not doing this. Both of those things put your wrist in a very awkward position. And when you're not an experienced player, it can really lead to a lot of fatigue. It actually can lead to some wrist soreness and injury, depending upon how far you take it. So what I encourage is essentially a straight line. Kind of like the same thing that you do if you're reaching for a doorknob. You don't reach for the door like this, or you don't reach for it like that. You reach for it with this kind of straight line. Now there's some chords that make you have a little bit of a bend, but the more the bend, the weaker actually the leverage point is going to be. You're actually relying more on just this kind of squeeze. The more you rely on this sort of squeeze, the less endurance you're going to have. You might work with sheet metal and have like, you know, a 90-pound PSI grip, but most people aren't working with sheet metal. And this sort of thing is really important to have a good kind of straight wrist when you can. You know, if I switch to a bunch of different chords, there's G, D, C, A minor, E, F bar chord. Now you can see the bar chord is when you start to have the bend, and then that's when things start to get a little bit squirrely. And there are a few components that we can address with that. So here's your F bar chord, the dreaded F bar chord. When you're playing the F bar chord, there's something that you should first get together, and that is which strings are you actually barring? Well, here's the good news. You have this shape right here. So these strings are not being barred at all. Even though your finger is running basically over those strings, the fifth string, the fourth string, and the third string. But all you're doing is you're going to press the low F and you are going to catch the high two strings here with this part of your finger. Well, how do you do that without, you know, totally exhausting yourself? If you look, if I show you my guitar from the top, you can see that my thumb is in front of my first finger, right? It's up here, my first finger is behind it. And what I'm doing is I'm getting this sort of like almost a twisting action going, which is very natural. I mean, it's unnatural to kind of turn my hand like this and show you in the video camera, but when I'm doing this, if I give you the overview like that, you can see that it's easy to get that pressure. If I'm just doing this, you know, and squeezing, no, I'm going to tire out real quick. And I've been playing the guitar for a while. So my thumb is a little bit in front of my first finger. I've got a little bit of leverage here. That's easy to create. And then all I have to do with my first finger is press that low string right there. So there's my bar. It's really the top two strings and here. And I'm using leverage to be able to do it easily. Now, if you want to hear that, what those two, let me just turn this way. That's the three strings. And you can see sometimes if I just had to play that, I might even just help myself a little bit by just resting my finger on top. But we're not doing that. We're playing an actual F bar chord, and it sounds like this. That's testing every note. Now, if I feel like I'm having to strain, I ask myself, where is my thumb in relationship to my first finger? The more it is in line with my first finger, kind of the harder it is. So the harder the bar is, right? So the bar should be nice and easy. And what I have is about this kind of distance in between my thumb and my first finger. Okay? The more I bring my thumb back, the more I bring my thumb this way, kind of the harder it gets. Now, I have a student who actually likes to do this. He's a big man too. He is 6'3" and he plays with his thumb here. And guess what? He gets tired quickly. So you want to use leverage to your advantage so you can have some endurance. I go through and I test every note. And if I get this, I see it's the second one. The second one is supposed to be barred by this part of my finger. I'm going to see if I can just create that. Perfect. I can create it like that. I'm actually not even barring the low F. Let me see if I can just put my finger there. Okay. Okay, good. I can put my rest of my fingers down. Now, another little trick that you can do, which is using leverage, is actually pull back a little bit. Pulling back this way. Okay, now, you see how my fingers move? That could get me touching every string and it could totally mess up the chord. So what you do is you make sure you get your good grip here. You have your thumb where you want it to be. So mine is very close, but it's still in front of the first finger. And then what I'll do is I'll actually pull back a little bit, just a little bit, so I can get... Another thing that can affect your leverage is where your elbow is. If your elbow is flared inwards, or if your elbow is flared outwards, or if it's just straight, what I find is that you can generate more leverage if you bring your elbow in a little bit. And what does that do? You might think, oh, well, you know, it's up against my side. But look what I've just done. I've created a really nice straight line from elbow to the fretboard, and I've got a bit of an angle, and I got some pressure that I can exert on to the top. And also look where my thumb is. See where my thumb is in relationship to my first finger? That's really important. And then when you play it, you can actually get it, and I'm not using a lot of pressure. Now, I don't know why I do that. It's like from when I was a kid, but you should be able to. But I kind of like the feeling of this. B flat is a total pain in the butt to play, and it doesn't feel that great, and there's just no way around it. So what you want to do is look where your elbow is. Not everybody is going to be doing the same kind of body mechanics, and that's the beauty of this. So what might be working for me right now might not totally work for you. Here's the great thing though. It's gotten you to think about where you can put your hands where you're not having so much pressure, squeezing pressure, and you can kind of use the natural biochemistry to, wait, would that be biochemistry? I don't know, I'm not a scientist. Your physiology, you'd be using your, there we go, bling bling. We could use your natural physiology and try and determine, okay, this feels better. This just simply feels better, and I'm not expending a lot of energy. Maybe it's my jiu-jitsu training is coming out in my guitar playing, but I think in those terms, how can I use my body's natural mechanics to be able to get leverage and play what is actually difficult? So now you have another question to ask yourself, and it is a super important question. And that question is, how do I want this to feel? How do I want this to feel is a great question, because it inspires some answers that are going to make you seek the path of least resistance. And I don't mean not practicing, okay? Don't do it. Or do it, practice. When you ask, how do I want this to feel? You're going to say, I don't know, I want it to feel easy. I want it to feel good. Then you take it to the next level and you say, well, how do I get this to feel good? Or how do I get this to feel easy? Because that's usually the answer I always come up with. I want whatever it is I'm working on to feel easy. So if I want it to feel easy, if I want what I'm playing to feel easy, be it the D chord or the F bar chord, I ask myself, how am I going to make this feel easy? So the first thing I need to do is I need to find my leverage points. How can I get my arm to provide the most leverage with the least amount of discomfort and strain? Okay, so those are really, really important parts of call that you have to stop at. And then there is, am I blocking any strings? Okay, I need to clear up all of my technical issues for it to feel easy. So I want something to feel easy on the guitar. What do I need to do to make it feel easy? I need to slow it down. I need to make sure that I'm playing everything correctly with a very, very high quality of sound. Okay, and I mean that like the pick is hitting the string, there's no dud notes, there's no buzzes, everything is grand, and then I can move on to the next step, which is, can I play it in time? And now I'm really not even thinking about where my elbow is or where my fingers are, because I've already gotten that part down. And answering that question, which of course begets other questions, leads you closer to the reason why you're actually playing guitar, which you can fill in the blank. There's 1,000 different blanks, and I'll let you fill that in. And if you can nail those three things, I guarantee you, you have just cut down the blockades that you're going to hit in your musical journey. You've just like, you've moved them aside, and yeah, the sky is the limit. So lads, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really wanted to do this, and I think it's just an absolutely, I couldn't not do it. I couldn't not do it. It's what I always talk about with my beginner students, and actually, even my intermediate and advanced students need to go back and ask themselves those questions about what do they really want this to feel like, and are they playing in time, and are they having difficulties that maybe leverage points could really help them out with. It is a pot of gold, and I hope you spend it wisely. If you like this video, yep, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because I've got great videos from beginner to advanced to interviews. It's a smorgasbord.